So now we're going to make our vegan cheesecake filling. So obviously it's not cheesecake, we're using cashew, and it gives it sort of that rich, creamy texture that a cheesecake would have. So I have here my cashews, which I covered just barely in boiling water, and I let them soak for about 15 minutes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to strain those. And that's just to soften them up and make it easier for them to puree into a nice smooth paste. The next thing is that I warmed my honey and my coconut oil. Right now it's just sitting on some hot water just so that it stays liquid for me. So I'm going to pop that in, and I have everything else ready to go. I also have my lemon juice, my vanilla bean paste, and then my raspberry puree. Just going to dry the bottom of that. Okay, so that's the honey and the coconut oil. Just going to give that a good stir to make sure I can get it all out. Add that to the blender. Okay, then we're going to add our cashews that have strained. And then we're adding the lemon juice and vanilla bean paste. Now we're just going to give that a quick puree. So you want to puree it until it's nice and smooth and you don't have any chunks of cashew left. So I just want to take it out on my spatula and take a quick look. And all I can see are air bubbles. So this looks really good. I'm going to pull that off the blender. I'm just going to clean up my station quickly, and then we'll be back to finish. Okay, now that I've cleaned up my station, you want to make sure that you get every bit out of the blender that you can. You don't want to leave any behind because there's not a whole ton here, okay? And the first thing we want to do is we want to mix 50 grams of the mix into our puree. So I've just got some raspberry puree here, and I'm going to add 50 grams of the mix to the puree. So we've got that. I'm going to stir those two together. And then I've got a piping bag here. It's just sitting in a liter container so it stands up by itself. And what I want to do is I want to swirl the pink and the red together. So I'm just going to add a little bit back and forth and kind of layer it in here so that when I pipe it, I get a little bit of both colors so it's swirled all the way through. Okay, so now that my piping bag is loaded, I pick it up. I'm going to give it a twist from the top and get some pressure on there. And then I'm going to fill each of these molds just to the top of the middle ring. Okay? I cut my hole a little too big. Okay, now you just want to make sure that the center is nice and clean. You might give it just a little bit of a tap to level it out a bit in case it's not completely level. I'm going to give a quick little clean on that center bit. This one I really overfilled, so I'm just going to use a spoon to clean it off. Okay, now I'm going to get my crust, and I'm going to put my crust on top. So now we're going to finish our crust for the vegan cheesecake. So you've rolled it out between paper, you've thrown it in the freezer. Then what you want to do is peel the paper off. You need to work quickly so it doesn't thaw on you too much. You need it to be nice and cold. So I'm going to pull the paper off that side, and then I'm just going to lightly put the paper back and then flip the whole thing over. Okay? Then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to peel the paper off. Save my little dots. So I used a number 68 cutter, and I just punched some circles out, and then I found a piping tip that was about the same size as the center. So I just lined it up to make sure that it would fit, and then I just cut some centers out. So now that we've got those cut, what we want to do is free them from the paper and just lay them on top. Okay, now once I'm sure that they're all adhered, I want to pop those back in the freezer to get them nice and cold. The leftover crust in the little circles you can save. You might be able to use those as a garnish on your plate. Since these were in the freezer for me already, I can pop one out just so you can see what it looks like. So there we have it, the vegan cheesecake. We'll get a plate together in a bit.